welcome back. We're here with Peter Schavaker from Nearshore Cyber and the next focused cyber session, Lessons from 2000 Cyber Interviews by an Ex-CISO.
Thank you. Thanks again for putting this on. This has been really fun. I've been trying to follow most of the sessions. You got Stan Stahl. So I got my start in the Los Angeles area in the late, or like in the 90s in Delaware, blah, blah, blah. But I kind of grew up in ISSA meetings in Los Angeles, and he was, I don't know if he was like president or something like that, but he was always around, and he was one of the people I looked up to, and I thought, I want to be like that guy someday. One of the things that I benefited from over the years was I got to work with my heroes. And if you hang around long enough, and if you are sort of like one who can join tribes of people in this business, you will get to meet your heroes, and you'll find that they're regular people. Let me give you the quick rundown on me. Thanks for pronouncing my name right, Francesca. Nobody does that right, and you got it. I appreciate it. So Peter Schavaker, I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Nearshore Cyber. I am based in Oaxaca, Mexico. So if you like food, you should come and visit. And Laura, my wife, partner, and I will ply with mezcal and mole. So I got started 28 years ago in cyber. Before that, I worked for Earthlink. So this is not my first rodeo. This is not my first revolution. I was part of that one. Before that, and a lot of people often want to know, like, how do I get into cyber? How do I get started? How do you get started? And my answer was, I worked for my dad. My dad had a band, a wedding band. It was the most working wedding band in the Philadelphia area. And I was his road crew when I was 11. And what I learned from him was how to work. I am completely ordinary, but I know how to work, and I know how to persist, and I know how to reach out to people and help. And I found that there is a natural tendency that we have as human beings to engage in and benefit from reciprocity. So let me speed up a little bit. Over the years, I did a lot of things. I was not always good as a cybersecurity professional, but I kept at it. And eventually I landed a job as a consultant at Optiv, where I wound up being promoted because I got stuff done. And I built a SIM practice there. I took it from 8 to 49 people in 2.5 years. We were everybody's top SIM partner at the same time, which gave me insights into various parts of the business, including going through a couple of acquisitions by private equity, working with some of the biggest brands in the world. And I hired some amazing people. That's what really got me to where I am today. I was able to engage a couple of recruiters. One of whom I gave her a start to. She's still a recruiter today, and she did cut her first invoice to me. I actually had to teach her how to do it. I said, you never make the invoice number one. Just come up with a number above one. That's it. The other one was a veteran of the industry who's largely retired. Again, a guy named Tom Shaw out of Denver. And I learned from Tom some techniques and a strategy that served me well ever since, which is care as much about the customer's business as your own, and learn it, and study it, right? And Tom would know what I needed before I called him. So I might call him and say, hey, I need a couple of Splunk people. He'd say, I know. Like, how do you know? He's like, because I keep in touch with your people. I keep in touch with those I placed there. I know your colleagues. I may know more about your pipeline than you do, because he knew the sales reps. And so what I learned from him was something I already had an instinct for, was that whatever I do is closely connected to the work of other people. And not just, it wasn't, most of what you do in cyber is not cyber. Most of what you do in cybersecurity is meetings, planning, writing, thinking, research, coaching, being coached. 90% of your day is not cyber. In fact, the farther you progress in your career, the less you find is cyber. Now, this led to that. I wound up moving from Denver, Colorado to Mexico, did a U-turn around New York and wound up back in Oaxaca. During that period, I did a stint as a CISO. So I wound up in a CISO slot because of my network, because of people I'd worked with who trusted me, who liked working with me, and I liked working with. So I got this job as a CISO. One of the things I found out is that as a CISO, I spent almost none of my time doing security. So one of the myths of being a CISO is that you somehow magically get control of things and you can tell people what to do about security, and you can't. There's this problem that's talked about in Econ 101 and basic economics called the agency problem. And the agency problem, basically in a non-technical way, means people do whatever the hell they want to do. No matter what you tell them to do, all you can hope that they'll do is that they will see what your interests are and see that they're aligned with their own interests and proceed accordingly. And the fact is that, there isn't a lot of like ordering people what to do in security. And that was a tough lesson as the CISO. I also learned that the CISO's job is to serve the interests of the company or the organization if you're not working for a company. And for every company, the goal is to make money. They may talk about other sorts of missions, big, grand, dreams about what you want to do in the world. But in the end, no matter what your goal is, even if you're a nonprofit or a non-governmental organization, you chase money because money is oxygen. Without it, you die. So we have a grand vision. Stepping back for a second, that grand vision is to flatten the global cybersecurity labor market. We offer talent from emerging markets like Mexico, Philippines, Greece, a couple of others to clients in the United States. The people who I do business with in rural communities in Mexico, near where I live, and the people who do the same kind of work in Chicago should be paid the same and regarded with the same degree of care and respect and deference. The people I work with in Bengaluru or in Mumbai or in South Africa, same thing. As human beings, we have a right to be treated with respect and dignity. That's what we do for a living. So we can have sort of like, big hearts and try and do good in the world, but we can't do any of it without cash. So the role of cybersecurity is to support the mission that's almost always about money. Now, let's talk about the lessons of, that was intro, by the way, it took only 9 minutes. The lessons from 2,000 interviews. Let me talk about the number. We started this 3 years ago, and something that no one told me about recruiting. Tech recruiters don't do tech interviews. Well, I didn't know that, and I just thought, well, I should be doing technical interviews. So I would do, the initial 15-minute interview, and then if somebody seems like they're worth having a longer conversation with, I invite them back, and we would speak for a while. For a long time, my interviews lasted like 2 hours. And why do they last 2 hours? Because to really get to know somebody takes a while, and it's also a skill, and a skill that most interviewers do not have. Now, why don't they have that skill? Because they don't have the reps. Because they don't want to work hard. Most people don't want to work hard. It's not really them. It's just that they're told, if you follow a pattern and you're told what you do, you'll be successful, you'll be paid, and you'll be able to like buy a house and a car and retire someday. Well, it turns out that that's nonsense. What we do requires hard work. And so I have the long, difficult conversations. The other reason that those interviews last a long time is I always get feedback. Feedback in an interview? Why, yes, I do feedback in interviews. One of the reasons I do that is the person who interviews with me is giving me their valuable time, and their time is valuable. All of our time is valuable. No one knows how much they have left. And so I feel like I deserve what I owe to the people I interviewed to give them my opinion. Well, it's just my opinion, right? No one has ever sued me. I'm not worried about it. You can't sue somebody over their opinion. But I do provide those opinions, and there's certain patterns that I see over and over again. Now, because I come from the SecOps world, I built SOCs, I built MDR departments, I built, co-founded companies. It took me 3 years until 3 years ago to get around to doing my own. But I know SecOps really well. I'm a native of that space, and for the most part, like most of the people in the Nearshore Cyber Tribe, are from the SecOps world, the GRC world. By the way, I'm going to drop a link into the chat. You'll just have to catch it. That's an invitation to the Nearshore Cyber community. It is free. It will save you 2 clicks if you use the link. And my tribe meets there, and some of those folks are here. I did bring a posse. Thank you for coming, especially Dwayne and Dursey. I would love you guys. So a couple of things show up over and over again among the SecOps people, because we're doing a lot of recruiting around that right now. One is, I ask, why do we want to change jobs, right? because anytime, unless you don't have a job, you're looking to change jobs. And it is true that the best candidates tend to already have jobs. Just math, just the math on that. So when I ask somebody why they want to change jobs, all too often, the response is, I want a place where I can learn more. Here's the problem with that. Your education does not address the problem of the buyer. You are a seller. I'm a broker, in a sense, an agent. I run an agency. The person I offer you to as a candidate is the buyer, and they have a problem that they're trying to solve. And the problem is, I need to teach somebody something, or I need to feed the pipeline so that there are more people in the industry. That is not their problem. It is not my problem. Not really. Now, whose problem is it? It's yours. So what do you do about that? How are you supposed to take that information? If it's not your employer's responsibility to train you for your career, right? And it is not my responsibility to train you for your career. It's yours. And it's yours right now. There are things that you can learn at work, a lot of things you can learn at work that you're not going to get from books, you're not going to get from courses. My dad, by the way, was also a professor of English, and my mom worked at a university as a music librarian. So I come from higher ed, 2 different colleges, right? And I'm not particularly keen on university education. Took great classes. I love junior colleges, learned great stuff. But the value of university degrees has fallen quite a lot outside of certain areas. If you want to be a lawyer, you better go to law school. If you're going to be a doctor, you definitely need to go to medical school. But if you want to be a cybersecurity professional, you can spend 4 years and $100,000, or you can find other ways to learn and teach your friends, and we'll collaborate, right? So universities don't provide the way. Certifications, I used to have a ton of them. I used to collect them. My first wife, I would complain, like, I don't know anything. I was always so down on myself in the first, 5-10 years of my career, because I was aware of how much more work there was to do, and how inadequate I was as a professional. I was. We all are. But I really felt it. So she took my certifications one day and she framed them. She got a bunch of like $1 frames in the dollar store. She'd cover the wall behind me with them and the wall in front of me with them. Now, in those days, certifications would cost you $100. A lot of them you could do on a beta basis. You can get them basically for free. Those days are long behind us. The other thing that happened was, I found out over the years that they don't really mean that much. Now, there's some exceptions. CISSP is good for demonstrating that you have 2 things. 1, a command of the fundamentals. 2, you've been in the business for a certain amount of time, because you have to get somebody to endorse you. So I think the CISSP is still good. I like the ISACA CISA because it pushed me to learn about a different perspective than the one that I had. And the OSCP is actually kind of handy, particularly for defensive security people, as well as the offensive security. I think TCM has something similar. What they do is they're hard. So you have to put in some effort. You also have to produce a deliverable. TCMs, you actually have to present the deliverable. But to get those things, you also have to understand things about Linux and networking and like some of the basics of IT that are not covered in other certifications. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I do not like the games at all. Now, so try Hack Me, Hack the Box, that stuff. People are going to keep playing them because people like games, but they're not ideal when it comes to learning. They're not a good use of time or money. And time is the thing that you have less of than money for the most part. So how do you do it? Well, I didn't want to have to talk about AI, but I'm going to have to talk about AI.
Well, actually, I was going to say, Peter, we have so many questions, and I'm sure AI is part of that. So let's just going to start putting them on the screen, and let's run through them, because
throw them on, and I'll pick them up as I go. This is like jazz.
Let's start with, how have the hiring trends in cybersecurity shifted over the years, and what's the next big trend we should be prepared for?
Cyber trends over there. Okay, here's the good news, bad news. So about five quarters ago, bottom fell out of the labor market for cyber, and for a lot of IT, but particularly for cybersecurity. Now, we were for about, I don't know, like 1999 through 2002, if you could spell cyber and fog a mirror, you could make 6 figures. Anybody could get a job. And there was a lot of kind of false information that came through that experience of like, anybody can get work, because you could point to lots of different causes and say, this is how I did it, this is how I did it, this is how I did, this is how I do it. And in fact, those didn't have anything to do with it. We were just in a really rich market. If you want to see an example of something like that right now, look at the kind of hiring that's being done among the AI Frontier Labs, where people are talking in serious terms about billion-dollar compensation packages. Now we're not getting in on that. There are probably about 500 people on the planet who are in that market, or could be, but it follows the same kind of curve to the wave, and that will crest and fall. So again, that ended up fourth quarter 2023. Fourth quarter, it's interesting because the fourth quarter is usually when you make your money. It is the best quarter of the year every year until then. So it fell apart. Some of it had to do with expectations around AI. More of it had to do with things out of Washington that I won't get into, but you all know. A lot of it had to do with overinvestment and the sort of recovery from the disruption of the pandemic. Some of it had to do, I suspect, with kind of post-pandemic trauma. We're still getting over it. We saw a lot of people get sick. Some of us are still sick. And a lot of us have not recovered. I live in a place where people are pretty good at dealing with dying, Mexico. We saw a lot of caskets, but even here, people are still having trouble recovering. Americans are not very good at dealing with dying. And so I think there was a kind of wave of hopelessness and despair that was hitting at the same time. And then this inrush of interest in AI and an outflow of capital. So the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going into things like silicon, like data center capacity, like fat salaries in the AI space, that capital comes from somewhere. And that used to be cyber's money, right? So you see a drop off at that period. Now, there was a period that seemed like it was coming to an end in Q1 of this year. So in Q1, we actually saw this like jump in hiring activity, and it looked like it had legs, right? April comes around, tariff talks kick in, and lots of economic certainty comes in. Another thing that I should mention, sort of maybe as a footnote, is that there were tax rules having to do with when you could write off investment in AI that were not renewed. They sort of like slipped out of the tax code when people weren't paying attention, and that took a lot of the investment out of the tech space. And the tech space is where a lot of the investment and a lot of hiring starts, and there's a cascade effect from there. So it's not just AI. It's not just tariffs. In fact, the tariffs we're not really sure yet. It's definitely not labor going overseas. I'm in that business. I follow India. I follow the offshoring business. It hasn't really changed. So please don't blame me or the people who I try and place, because things have been pretty stable for us.
Well, actually, Peter, I want to move us to like kind of a lightning round because we have so many questions. We love the deep dive. It's amazing.
Yeah, let's hit it.
So a follow-up also from Kali is from your experience, what technical skills do most underestimate or fail to emphasize during the interviews? And we're just going to go quickly. So they're not. If you can hit it, and then I'm going to pass the next question on to Francesca.
No technical skills are really overlooked. The technical skills are not nearly as important as the ability to demonstrate one's skill. So get a GitHub, make it public, create stuff, and post it. Do it with your friends. The technical part will come, and it's going to change anyway. Your ability to work and learn and publish are the things. Can you share an example of a candidate's soft skill that made them stand out or cost them the job? Yes. Cost them the job, lying. That'll do it every time. About 1 out of 5 is somebody who's fibbing about their background. The other is a kind of combination of humility and joy. I look for people who are excited by cybersecurity and about learning. And I will go to the mat for people who don't have the tech skills, but who are sincerely joyful about the work. Open source tools you recommend for student practice cybersecurity pen testing or network monitoring on a budget. Here's what you do. You go to the LLM of your choice and you ask that question of it, and you get 2 of your friends together and do it together. And you say, I want to learn such and such. Maybe it's Linux kernel. Maybe it's network security, whatever it is. and you use the SMART goals framework, SMART, look it up, again, LLM, and you craft the prompt accordingly, and you tell it, you tell it you want to create a capstone project that you can put on the internet. And I would suggest limiting the period, the time-based part, to 4 to 6 weeks, and publish periodically within that. But use AI to create your custom learning program, but do it with friends so you can keep your motivation up. Yeah. Organization balance. Don't go all in on AI. Pedal the metal, brothers and sisters. Like, the natural boundaries will make themselves apparent as you go. The limiting factor on all technological progress is the human's ability to accept it. Next. What's one type of security trend everyone should prepare for in the next 3 to 5 years? The need to, but also the ability to learn rapidly. There's a lot of hemming and hawing about where do we get the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, and it's gonna come from people who are willing to learn and focus on things that actually matter to them, that they're willing to work hard at. So the trend is everybody's going to be working harder, but they're going to be more selective about that what they work on, because you'll be able to go faster. The things that used to take me a month to learn a year ago, I learned in 2 days. That certifications will get you a job, and that's what you need. That there is a golden ticket that will get you a career, and that people are going to make a lot of money. Wages are down. Everybody's going to pay cut. The effectiveness of security policies. I don't know. Next one. I mean, it's like a big question. I don't know how to address it succinctly. Cybersecurity for the next 3 to 5 years. I think we just did that one. And preventing data breaches. Okay, let's talk about user awareness training for a second, because I think that's what that's pointing to. It's kind of a mixed bag. One thing I would say is that I think training is less important than moderating people's workload. If you look really hard, you will find an essay that I wrote a few years ago. I think it was suppressed by the people I was working for, but it was about the fact that user awareness training is bounded by people's ability to read what's in front of them. So if you have 250 pieces of email to deal with every day, you're going to miss stuff. You want to reduce the number of phishing attacks and therefore data breaches, cut their people's email by down to maybe 150 pieces of mail, or to 100 pieces of mail, or 50 pieces of mail. People are working too much on things that cause them to sort of zombie-like move through life, and makes them easy targets. Based on your experience, what the key traits consistently appeared in candidates who went on to succeed in cyber careers? Patience, the ability to sacrifice and suffer, and working with other people and feeding off of their energy. I mean, look, here's the thing, like, a career in anything that matters, that is as big and hairy as cybersecurity is going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of work. There are going to be periods when you don't make a lot of money, but you work your ass off. You will eventually, like, I consider myself ex-cyber. I mean, like, I still do cyber. I still do some delivery here and there, but I've ended my cybersecurity career, and I run a business. I'm an entrepreneur, right? It took really until I was basically at the end where I felt like, I get it. Like, I think I'm an expert now. And it was 25 years. So you're going to have to be dedicated to it. And the sacrifices you make, you're going to have to take seriously. And that's not just going to be time and money. It's going to be time with your family. Sometimes it's going to be your health. Sometimes it's going to be financial. But you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice and tough it out. That's why most people don't belong in this business. What do young professionals without years of experience focus on to show leadership potential? Ask questions. If you know something, that you can teach it to somebody else, but start with the questions, right? Practical steps you recommend for cyber leaders to balance AI automation with human-centric processes. Okay, the way AI really works, and I use it constantly. Like, I had a meeting with some of my partners before this about a strategy around a certain market in Mexico. And I was sharing my screen. I was like prompting 3 different LLMs with questions about the companies in the market and the problems they're trying to solve and the regulations they're dealing with. And what happens is, if you can treat AIs like partners, not servants, not interns, but like partners for things like ideation, not just code. This is why we have a thing called calling all vibe builders, not just coders. If you build with them, it's not a matter of balance. Like, forget about balance. Balance is gone, if there ever was balance. It's a matter of integrating your thinking and your creativity with the incredible resources that AI has to amplify your humanity. Susan, one security investment you wish you had made sooner. Oh, like in cyber, in security? I don't know. Ask me that over in our community. It's a really good question. How do you coach community professionals transitioning from technical roles into leadership? Learn accounting and finance. Learn sales. Yeah, actually, that reminds me of something I wanted to say all day. These are great sessions, by the way. But something that I wanted to say is, if you are not yet in cyber IT, get a sales job. Learn to sell, preferably some things to consumers, because then you get a lot of repetition, a lot of reps. If you can sell and you can learn to like deal with rejection and you learn patience from that and persistence. You also learn the value of what a business is because you're right in the front line. That will serve you really well. So.
I think that's going to wrap us up. We are at the end of our time. That was amazing. Any other thoughts, tips?
No, I'm going to drop that invitation there again. Y'all can find me in the Nearshore Cyber community and on LinkedIn. I'm out of invitations for the week. So if you want to connect, you have to send me the connection because I don't get more till tomorrow night. But thanks so much, Philippa and Francesca. You guys are awesome. I love that you're doing this. This is really important.
Thank you so much. And everybody join us in the next session. We wrap out strong with Dirce Eduardo Hernandez and talking about
Dircey.
With cybersecurity and AI, which is obviously a popular theme. So see everybody in the next session. And thank you so much, Peter.